Mesilas Yesharim is teaching us, and we'll teach more, about all the ways the Yetzer Hara is in Ish Milchama, some lines that we've seen and we'll see, and we're going to talk about a lot in current weeks and in addendums, because it's a really important idea to understand the Yetzer Hara. He says that he's Achas mitachbulas Yetzer Hara mar moso. This is one of his tachbulas, one of his strategies and his trickery and his chicanery and treacherousness. Then he says, Ki hu ish milchama, he's a man of war, and we'll have a lot of interesting things to share about the fact that he's ish milchama, melamed bar mimus, and things sessions I've already filmed and shared. But I wanted to jump in right now because right now we're in day 2 of the war with Iran. I want to share something live, and we're going to be sending this out on Tainus Esther. Tainus Esther is the day we fast, but it was really the day that everyone in all 127 Medinas, wherever there were Jews, there was a battle, and of course a very, very successful battle. And that's when we were in Nafochu. That's really what happened. That they were supposed to be against us was the day of Milchama. So Tainus Esther, we don't usually think of it like that, but that's what it was. The 14th and the 15th were days of rest, but the 13th was the day of battle. The 14th was the day they rested, and then the Shushan they fought again on the 14th. They rested on the 15th. But the 13th is Mankila. It's the day of battling. But more than that, we're living in a battle right now, Mamash the battle. So I wanted to try to pull out a lesson that I was thinking about and share with everybody today. Right now, as we're in this battle, we don't know how long this is going to go on. Our war with Iran. I'm assuming it'll still be going tomorrow. Maybe by the time you get this, will be over. Maybe Mashiach will be here already, and Bezrat Hashem. But I want to share some lessons from this battle, which I think are very obvious, and the transfer, the limud over to our fight in the Yetzer Hara should be obvious. If you think about it, it's we're talking about Derech HaTava here, the nisim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the nisim the star, perhaps even nisim Gluyim, reveal miracles are tremendous. How much of Iran's head guys we've knocked out already, including the head honcho, etc. It's incredible. But if we're misboning a little bit, what went into this? What went into was an enormous amount of planning, an enormous amount of knowledge of the enemy. There are obviously people who were on the ground in Iran who were figuring out where these guys are, and that's planning, and that's knowing your enemy, right? Without really understanding his movements and things like that, right? To make a hit means we have people there knowing they're going to be there at a certain point in time, etc., being extremely prepared and extremely ready. And only through that were we able to carry out these great strikes without knowing the inside information. But it's only sharing things which I believe are quite obvious. And on the other side, the situation in Israel right now, from where I am, not in Gush Dan, which is Tel Aviv's areas, is more difficult, but for sure we're going into this might be our very session right now, might be interrupted for all I know. We've gone already over this day in yeshiva 2 times, and early this morning, people are heading into their bomb shelters, etc. So we're certainly in that situation, but you don't see a tremendous fear by people. And now, of course, there's bitachon, and that is bitachon is tremendous. But I think, being honest with ourselves, a lot of reason people aren't so nervous. Again, I'm not saying there are people that are. I'm not discounting anybody who's having a hard time. But many people, the vibe in the street is a lot of simcha and a lot of joy and a lot of sense of maybe the gula is coming, things like that. But there's not tremendous amount of fear. Again, there are people who are fearful. We're not putting that down. Certainly not. I'm just picking up on the vibe, if you will. The way the vibe is from who I'm running into and seeing and speaking. Don't see that. And the reason is a lot because of the tremendous anti-missile systems that are being created. Now, if you think about that for a second, again, of course, there's bitachon. I'm not taking away from that, but I think only the greatest bala bitachon, maybe like the Briskerov or people like that, if they knew that there were ballistic missiles flying with no way to defend against it, people would be very, 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 very nervous. And that means because things like Kippah Barzel and Kela David and the amazing systems that Israeli technology and American technology, Israel is certainly a leader in these things, have developed. Now, what does that show you? That is preparation. Really, that's what it means. It's preparation. Preparation and an enormous amount of knowledge of what the enemy is doing, right? Because you have to know how their missiles work. What's the difference between a ballistic missile and a drone, which are very different? What's the difference between a heat-seeking missile and a ground-to-air missile, etc.? I have no idea. The enormous, these things happen, and it's like our phones. Of course, phones just work. It's incredible, the technology which is on our phones. It's just absolutely incredible. Think about that. In fact, you can listen to this, and I, without too much technical knowledge, can share this with you so simply with a few press of buttons, a few swipes is mind-boggling. The fact that these things can intercept. I mean, these missiles are going extremely fast, and every one of the Kibbutz Barzell things is extremely expensive, and you have to think how to stop it and you have to know which ones could possibly hit and which ones would just end up in the Mediterranean, because the ones that are going to end up in the Mediterranean anyway, you don't want to waste your Kibbutz Barzell for financial reasons. Also, in order your stockpile is big enough. So they're seeing this thing flying at enormous speeds, deciding, right? The computers are deciding whether we should go after it or not. And then when you go over it, you're making this thing, and they're making adjustments mid-flight, all types of things. You see sometimes their flight path. It's mind-boggling. The point I'm trying to get across, friends, is the preparation, the hashka'ah that went into it, right? Knowing the enemy and the hashka'ah, the amount of time, the diligence that went into fighting the enemy, and realizing there's an enemy who could do this one day, right? Yes, we have an Air Force, okay, our Air Force is great, Baruch Hashem, but Lamaisa, they might send ballistic missiles, right? Ballistic missiles, airplanes, I mean, in regular, conventional ways that airplanes work, maybe the airplanes also do something, I don't know, but don't stop these things, right? So we have to create this missile system. And now we all know that they're working on developing lasers, because at the end of the day, this is pretty expensive. We can figure out laser systems, and laser systems have gotten quite far, etc. And, it's like a dream. Incredible. So what is the lesson to us? The lesson to us is that the Yetzer Hara is an Ish Milchama. Mulumad Bar Mimus, he has tachbulos, he has strategies, etc. So just like the Israeli planners and the American planners took the Iranian threat so serious and did so much groundwork, right? Let's talk about what happened with Hezbollah in the north when they blew up all the beepers. I think they said that was 20 years of preparation, 15 years of preparation, enormous amount of time that most people don't spend thinking about themselves. But it was worth it for the Israeli planners and the Mossad people and the Shabak people, whoever it was, God bless them, to put enormous amount of time in thinking, like, how are we going to, if we place the beepers, where are they going to, if we make this fake company, then they'll order from us, and once they order from us, we'll be able to put this in, and then we have to keep track of it the whole time. An enormous amount of taking the enemy seriously, realizing there's an enemy, knowing his ways, preparing for him, and then acting. And all those things are the things that when we realize that we have a worse enemy, called the Yetzer Hara, right, in a certain way is worse. We don't always perceive him as worse or fear him as much, but we should. I'm talking to myself, of course, and that's the message we have to take right now. This is how I have to feel about the Yetzer Hara. There's a physical force called Iran, called radicalism, which is coming to destroy me and my people. And thank God there are people working so hard against him, and are being successful in working against him. So there's the Yetzer Hara inside of me, which wants to destroy me the same way, through lack of self-confidence, through gaiva, through taiva, through all different means at its disposal. It's trying to find all my weak spots and take advantage of them, right? I have a little bit of a tendency towards sadness. It wants to make me very, very depressed. I have a little bit of a tendency towards taiva. It wants to turn me into very, very big bal taiva. I have a little bit of a tendency towards anger. It wants me to blow up at my wife no matter what. I have a little bit of a tendency to be impatient. It wants me to be very, very impatient. I have a little bit of a tendency to be selfish. It wants me to be totally selfish and not fit for dealing with people. This is our Yetzer Hara. We have to learn the same lesson. We have to realize our enemy. We have to know his ways, like they did. We have to prepare for the battle. We have to be patient. We have to wait for our times. We have to know. We have to go with the flow and keep battling and battling, fighting and fighting and fighting. Hopefully we can take a big musar from the tremendous efforts that we've seen from our brothers in the Israeli forces and our dear partners in the American alliance forces, etc., and do the same things when it comes to our Yetzer Hara. Learn the lessons, beat our enemies, and Bezrat Hashem, we'll see all the enemies, the Jewish people and Klal Yisrael, Jewish people, and all good force in the world destroyed, and we should see Mashiach Tzidkenu very, very soon, as it's right around the corner, and we should see that finally, Or Chodesh Al Tzion Tayir.